Good evening, and welcome back. Tonight, we are stepping away from the relentless hum of the modern world. We are leaving behind the glow of the screen, the vibration of the phone, and the electric buzz of the 21st century. Tonight, we travel back to a city made of stone, steam, and shadow, a New York that exists now only in sepia-toned memory. As always, I hope you are comfortable. Let the blankets settle around you. Feel the weight of your body against the mattress. Take a deep, slow breath. Let the air out slowly. Tonight, we are walking through Manhattan after dark in the year 1890. In 1890, the night was a different creature than the one we know today. It was deeper. It was heavier. It was a physical presence that settled over Manhattan like a velvet cloak. Before the era of the Great White Way, before the neon pulse of Times Square, there was the gaslight. And the gaslight was not a static thing. It was alive. It hissed softly in its glass cage, a rhythmic, mechanical breathing that lined the cobblestone streets. It didn't pierce the darkness. It negotiated with it, casting long amber pools of light that danced and flickered with every passing breeze. Imagine yourself now, standing at the very edge of the island, at the tip of the Battery. The year is 1890. The air is thick with the scent of the Atlantica sharp, bracing mixture of salt spray, wet wood, and distant coal smoke, drifting from 1,000 chimneys. There is no roar of traffic here, no sirens. Instead, there is the percussion of the harbor. You hear the slow, rhythmic slap-slap of the tide against the granite piers. It is a timeless sound. The same sound the Lenape heard centuries before, and the same sound that great iron-hulled steamers hear now as they rest. To your left, the East River churns, a black ribbon of muscle moving beneath the moon. The Brooklyn Bridge, a young marvel, arches over the water like the skeleton of a prehistoric giant. Its granite towers rise into the mist. Steel cables hum in the wind. A low, metallic vibration you can feel in your bones if you stand still enough. On the bridge, a lone cable car creeps across, its small yellow windows looking like a string of amber beads lost in the fog. As you turn your gaze toward the city, you see the skyline of 1890. It is a jagged, irregular horizon. There are no glass towers reaching for the clouds. Instead, there are the spires of churches, Trinity, Grace, St. Paul's, pointing toward the heavens like silent stone fingers. There are the red brick warehouses of the South Street seaport, their windows dark and blind, guarding the treasures of the Orient, crates of tea, bolts of silk, and bags of coffee that scent the night air with a faint, exotic bitterness. The streets here are paved with Belgian blocks, sturdy, rounded stones that have been polished to a dull sheen by the passage of millions of iron-shod wheels. When a lone, handsome cab passes by in the distance, the sound is unmistakable. It is the clip-clop of a horse's hooves, a lonely, echoing cadence that defines the tempo of this era. It is a slower pace, a human pace. There is no rush here. The night is meant for resting, for watching, and for the slow unfurling of shadows. You begin to walk, your footsteps muffled by the dampness of the air. The mist clings to your coat, a cool, gentle weight. Above you, the sky is not the orange-gray of a modern city, but a true, deep indigo. Little light pollution. The stars are startlingly bright. They hang over the city like a crown of diamonds, indifferent to the ambitions of men. You see the Great Bear and the North Star, the same celestial map that guided the sailing ships now tied to the docks. The masts of these ships, hundreds of them, create a forest of timber along the shoreline. Their rigging creaks in the wind, a sound like old leather and dry bone. These are the ghosts of the age of sail, rubbing shoulders with new tugboats and the grand ocean liners of the White Star Line. Everything is made of heavy materials, wrought iron, oak, hemp, and brass. There is a sturdiness to this world, a sense that things are built to last a century, not a season. As you move away from the water and toward the interior of the city, the silence of the docks gives way to whispers, the nighttime economy. You pass a night towel coffee stand, a small wooden structure lit by a single kerosene lamp. The steam from the large copper urn rises in a thick white plume, swirling into the darkness. A watchman stands there, his hands wrapped around a thick ceramic mug, his face illuminated by the soft orange glow of the heater. He nods to you, a silent acknowledgement between two wanderers of the night. In this Manhattan, the darkness is not something to be conquered, but something to be lived in. There are areas of profound shadow between the lamp's pockets of mystery, where the imagination can roam. You see the silhouettes of the newsies, young boys who have finished their long day, shouting headlines. They are huddled together for warmth on the iron gratings of newspaper buildings, where subterranean heat rises to meet the cold night air. Their breathing is soft and synchronized, a quiet testament to the city's hidden life. The architecture around you is a riot of texture. You reach out and touch the wall of a building near Wall Street. The stone is cold, rough-hewn sandstone, pitted by decades of salt air. Higher up, cornices are decorated with faces, lions, gargoyles, and maidens, all carved from terracotta. In the daytime, they are ornaments. At night, silent witnesses of New York peering down from the heights through the shifting fog. You find yourself at the foot of Broadway, the great spinal cord of the island. Here, even at this hour, the city feels alive. The telegraph wires overhead, thousands of them, crisscrossing the sky like a frantic black web hum with the silent energy of a million messages. They carry the prices of gold, the news of the West, and the secrets of the powerful. In 1890, the world is connecting, but the wires are still visible, a physical manifestation of the invisible thoughts of the city. Take another breath. Feel the coolness of the 1890 air in your lungs. It is cleaner than you expected, scented with the smell of the sea and the faint, nostalgic aroma of wood smoke. The world is quiet, but it is not empty. It is waiting, it is dreaming. As we prepare to leave the docks and move deeper into the heart of the city, toward the flickering taverns of the Bowery and the silent, grand avenues of the rich, remember that you are safe in this past. The shadows here are not your enemies. They are the backdrop of a story that has already been told. The horses are asleep in their stables. The great engines of the ferries are quiet. And you, too, are moving toward a deep and restful sleep. We leave the salt-sprayed silence of the Battery behind, walking northward into the tangled veins of the city. The air changes here. The sharp, clean scent of the Atlantic is replaced by something more complex, more human. It is the smell of roasted chestnuts, tobacco pipe smoke, and the humid breath of the underground. You are entering the Bowery. The Bowery is a kingdom of light and shadow, where gas jets never truly dim. It is the city's playground and theater. Above you, the sky is carved into slices by the iron skeleton of the elevated railroad, the L, a massive structure. As you stand beneath it, the ground begins to tremble. A low hum travels up through the cobblestones. Then comes the sound, a rhythmic, metallic roar. A steam-powered locomotive pulls wooden coaches high above. It showers the street below with glowing embers, gold sparks that dance in the air before vanishing against wet stones. The train's light flickers across building facades like a magic lantern show, illuminating cherubs and tavern signs. Then, as quickly as it came, the roar fades into a distant clatter, leaving a silence even deeper. You walk further into the glow. Gaslights are frequent, clustered around dime museums and grand beer halls. These are the palaces of the people. Look through the frosted glass of a nearby tavern window. Inside, the world is warm and amber. Light reflects off massive mahogany bars, polished to a mirror finish. Crystal decanters catch the gas flame, turning it into liquid rubies and emeralds. Muffled clinks and murmurs fill the air. Men discuss labor, prize fights, or political rumors. A low, melodic murmur of voices. But outside, in the shadows between the taverns, the Bowery is quiet. Streets left to night watchmen and dreamers. The architecture is a patchwork of history. Old federal-style houses and new towering tenements. Intricate ironwork casts shadows like black lace against the red brick walls. The sidewalks are a stage for the city's smallest details. A discarded newspaper, damp with mist. A stray cat, sleek and silent as a shadow, slips beneath a wooden fruit crate. Its eyes catch a stray beam of gaslight, glowing like two brass coins before it vanishes. There is a specific texture to the air in the Bowery at midnight. It feels thick with history. You are walking over layers of time, Dutch farmers' footpaths, and trails of the first people. The city builds on itself, but at night, boundaries thin. You hear echoes of a decade ago. As you move toward the 5 points, the atmosphere shifts. It settles into a weary peace. The shadows here are longer, buildings leaning across narrow lanes, like old men sharing secrets. Windows are mostly dark, but a single candle flickers behind a thin curtain. The silence of the 5 points is profound. A collective sigh of a city that works hard. You pass a small courtyard, hidden behind a heavy timber gate. Inside, the air is still. A single wooden pump stands in the center, dripping slowly. Drip, pause, drip. Let your mind rest on the simplicity of materials. Everything is tactile. The cold, smooth surface of cast iron lampposts. The damp, earthy smell of mortar. No plastic here. No synthetic hum. The world is made of elements pulled from the earth. As you walk, your rhythm becomes part of the city. Your footsteps, a soft, steady beat. You are a ghost in this landscape, a silent observer of a world unaware it will become a myth. Night-blooming jasmine sends a faint, sweet trail of scent clashing with coal-fired heaters. You move toward the transition point where Bowery energy meets the financial district's dignity. The lights ahead are more orderly, shadows more manicured. But here, the night feels most alive. It is the sleep of the laborer, the rest of the immigrant, and the quiet vigil of the city's foundations. Take a deep breath of this midnight air. It is cool and heavy, filling your lungs with a bygone era. Feel the stillness in your limbs. The city is holding its breath for you. The stars above the tenements are the same stars that watch over you now, spanning over 100 years. You are safe, you are tired, and the path ahead is paved with soft, golden light. We leave the flickering lanterns of the Bowery behind, turning our steps toward the south and west. The atmosphere shifts to the monumental and still. We are entering the heart of the financial district, the Cathedral of Commerce. In 1890, this is a place of profound, heavy silence after sundown. At night, Wall Street becomes a canyon of granite, a labyrinth of shadows where the only currency is the moonlight reflecting off the cold stone. The buildings here are massive, built with a sense of eternal permanence. They are constructed of thick slabs of gray marble, brownstone, and limestone. They have heavy bronze doors that look as though they could withstand a siege. As you walk down these narrow streets, the sky above becomes a thin ribbon of indigo. It is framed by the jagged silhouettes of cornices and rooflines. The air feels cooler here, trapped between the high walls of finance. It carries the scent of ink, old paper, and the dry, metallic tang of the great iron vaults buried deep beneath your feet. At the end of the long, dark stretch of Wall Street stands Trinity Church. In 1890, its spire is still one of the tallest points in the city. It is a dark needle piercing the stars. The church sits in its graveyard, like an island of antiquity in a sea of progress. As you approach the iron gates, the sound of your footsteps changes. The echo against the stone facades becomes sharper, clearer. Then you hear the bell. It is the deep bronze tolling of the clock, marking the hour. The sound doesn't just travel through the air. It moves through the ground, a low, resonant vibration that settles in your chest. It is a slow, patient sound, reminding the city that time remains the ultimate master. You stop for a moment to look through the iron railings of the Trinity churchyard. The headstones are old, tilted at odd angles like the teeth of a forgotten giant. Some are so worn by the salt winds of the harbor that the names have vanished, leaving only the suggestion of a life once lived. The grass is a deep, shadowed green, and the ancient oaks that stand among the graves rustle softly in the night breeze. Their leaves make a sound like dry parchment rubbing together. It is the only wild sound in this world of stone. This is the place where Alexander Hamilton and Robert Fulton rest, their ambitions finally stilled by the earth. In 1890, the city around them is exploding with new energy, but here the peace is absolute. The shadows of the trees stretch long across the monuments, moving slowly as the moon climbs higher. There is a sense of sanctuary here. The heavy granite walls of the surrounding banks seem to bow their heads in respect to this small patch of hallowed ground. Continuing on, you turn onto Broadway. Here, the street widens, and the gaslights become more stately, held aloft by ornate cast-iron posts. These posts look like Greek columns. The buildings are adorned with the symbols of the Gilded Age eagles, with spread wings, faces of Roman gods, and intricate floral wreaths. Everything is tactile. You reach out and touch a balustrade. The iron is cold and slightly damp with the midnight dew. The stone is rough and honest. In the distance, you see the silhouette of a night watchman. He carries a heavy wooden truncheon and a brass lantern that swings in time with his stride. The light from his lantern creates a golden circle that travels with him, illuminating the cracks in the pavement. This puddle reflects the moon like a shard of silver. He doesn't speak. In this part of the city, silence is a sign of order. He checks the locks on a massive set of oak doors, the clack-clack of the latch echoing down the empty street. As you walk, your mind begins to drift to the subterranean world beneath you. In 1890, New York is a city of layers. Beneath the cobblestones, there are the coal-fired boilers that keep these grand buildings warm. There are the great cisterns of water and the first tentative tunnels for telegraph wires. You can almost feel the heat rising through the sidewalk, a faint, rhythmic pulse of the city's machinery, like the breathing of a slumbering beast. The silence of the financial district is not an empty silence. It is a heavy silence, filled with the weight of the millions of gold coins locked in the vaults, and the thousands of contracts signed in the offices above. It is the silence of power. But as you move further north, toward City Hall Park, the atmosphere begins to lighten. The trees of the park appear as soft, dark clouds against the sky. The fountain in the center of the park is quiet now, its waters still, reflecting the gaslights. You find a wooden bench near the edge of the park and sit for a moment. The wood is weathered and smooth, comfortable against your back. From here, you can see newspaper Rotha, offices of the Times, the Tribune, and the Sun. Even at this hour, a few windows are glowing with a warm yellow light. Inside, the night editors are at work, their pens scratching across paper as they record the history of tomorrow. The smell of fresh ink and hot lead drifts on the breeze. It is a sharp, industrious scent that cuts through the damp night air. The city is a clock. The harbor is the pendulum. The Bowery is the mainspring. And here, in the canyons of stone, are the gears. Everything is connected. Everything is moving toward a future that 1890 can only imagine. But for now, in this moment, the world is perfectly balanced. The air is still. The shadows are soft. The only task you have is to listen to the heartbeat of the stone. Take another slow, deep breath. Feel the stillness of the park around you. The grass is cool, the trees are hushed, and the great stone cathedrals of commerce are standing guard. They are standing guard over your rest. You are a traveler in a time of grace and gravity. The city is grand, the night is long, and the path to sleep is steady and sure. As steady and sure as the tolling of the Trinity bell. We leave the cold, marble majesty of the financial district and turn our gaze toward the northeast. The air begins to change again, losing its scent of ink and granite and taking on the warm, crowded aroma of life. We are entering the Lower East Side, a landscape of brick, iron, and a million overlapping dreams. In 1890, this is the most densely populated place on the face of the earth. But at night, the frantic energy of the pushcart markets and the shouting of a dozen languages softens into a deep, rhythmic hum. This is the night side of the tenements, where the shadows are intimate and the silence is communal. Imagine the streets here: Orchard, Hester, Ludlow. They are narrower than the grand avenues of the West Side, lined with 5- and 6-story buildings of dark red brick. At this hour, the street lamps are fewer and further between, casting islands of amber light onto the uneven pavement. Between these islands, the darkness is thick and textured. You aren't just walking through a city. You are walking through a living tapestry of families. Look up at the facades of the buildings. In the heat of the late 19th century New York night, the tenements breathe through their fire escapes. These zigzagging iron ladders are more than safety exits. They are the summer bedrooms of the poor. You see the silhouettes of blankets draped over the iron railings, the shapes of people seeking a stray breeze from the harbor. There is a soft, collective sound, a chorus of breathing, the occasional rustle of a sheet, and the distant, muffled cry of a child in a dream. It is the sound of humanity huddled together, finding rest in the small spaces left over by the Gilded Age. As you walk, your senses pick up the lingering ghosts of the day's labor. The scent of onions and fried dough from a basement kitchen still clings to the bricks. There is the smell of wet wool from the garment shops where the sewing machines have finally gone silent, and the faint, sweet aroma of tobacco from the cigar makers who work in their own small rooms. The air is heavy, but it isn't oppressive. It is the weight of a neighborhood at rest. The architecture here is functional but etched with the wear of thousands of hands. You reach out and touch a brick wall. It feels warm, having held onto the sun's heat long after the moon rose. The mortar is crumbling in places, and the wood of the door frames is smoothed by the touch of generations. This is a city built by hand, brick by brick, and you can feel the effort in the very texture of the street. In 1890, the night in the tenements is lit by more than just gas. In many windows, you see the small, steady glow of a kerosene lamp. These are the nightlights of the working world. A tailor might be finishing a sleeve by the light of a single wick, or a student might be hunched over a book of English grammar, trying to master the language of this new world while the rest of the house sleeps. These small sparks of light in the darkness look like stars caught in the brickwork, each one representing a hope, a struggle, or a prayer. The sounds of the Lower East Side at night are small and specific. The clink-clink of a loose shutter hitting a window frame, the distant, lonely whistle of a night watchman several blocks away, the soft scritch of a mouse moving behind the wainscoting of an old building. And then there is the water. The tenement courtyards often have a single central pump. You hear the rhythmic drip, drip, drip of a leaky faucet hitting a wooden bucket. It is a slow, liquid heartbeat that measures the passage of the hours toward dawn. You pass an alleyway, a rear tenement entrance. It is a tunnel of absolute blackness, but as your eyes adjust, you see the shapes of the newsies again. They aren't on the warm grates of the newspaper buildings now. They are curled up in the shelter of a doorway, 3 or 4 boys huddled together for warmth. Their caps are pulled low over their eyes. In the daylight, they are the loudest voices in the city, the merchants of the headlines. But now they are just children, small and still, dreaming of a city that belongs to them. Further down the street, you come across a shul, or a small basement synagogue. The door is slightly ajar to let in the cool air. From within, you hear the low, melodic murmur of an old man reciting the midnight psalms. The language is ancient, Hebrew or Yiddish, and the cadence is hypnotic. It rises and falls like the tide, a steady, ancient rhythm that provides a spiritual foundation for the city's restless heart. The sound follows you as you walk, a thread of silver in the dark. The cobblestones here are different from the polished blocks of Wall Street. They are more irregular, often slick with the moisture of the night. You have to watch your step, moving slowly, which only adds to the meditative quality of the walk. You aren't rushing to a destination. You are absorbing the beingness of the neighborhood. You pass a closed grocery store, its wooden shutters bolted tight with iron bars. The scent of dried herring and pickles drifts from the cracks in the wood, a sharp, briny smell that reminds you of the old countries across the sea. In 1890, the tenement night is a world of shadows, but it is not a world of fear. there is a sense of eyes on the street. Even at 2 a.m., there is an old woman leaning out of a fourth-story window, resting her elbows on a pillow, watching the empty street below. She is the silent guardian of the block, a witness to the night's small dramas. She sees you, a lone traveler, and her presence is a comfort. You are not alone in the dark. You are part of a massive, sleeping family. As we move through this chapter of our journey, let your own breathing sync with the rhythm of the tenements. Long, slow, and steady. Feel the weight of the air, the warmth of the bricks, and the profound peace of a community that has set aside its burdens for a few precious hours. The sewing machines are still. The pushcarts are empty. The voices are hushed. Take a moment to imagine a single room inside one of these buildings. It is small, with a low ceiling and a single window looking out onto the airshaft. There is a wooden table, scrubbed clean, and a few iron bedsteads. The air is still. The only movement is the flicker of the moon's reflection in a wash basin. In this room, the exhaustion of the day has turned into the deep, heavy sleep of the just. There is no anxiety about the future here, only the profound restorative power of the present. You are walking toward the edge of the district now, where the tenements begin to give way to the larger warehouses and the approach to the bridges. But the spirit of the Lower East Side stays with youth, that sense of endurance, of closeness, and of the beauty found in the smallest, simplest things. The gaslight on the corner flickers, its blue and yellow flame dancing in the draft, and you realize that even in the most crowded place on earth, the night can be a sanctuary. The stars above the narrow street are framed by the laundry lines that stretch from window to window. Like the rigging of a great ship, the shirts and sheets hang limp in the midnight air, looking like white ghosts in the moonlight. They are the banners of the working class, peaceful and still. Stay in this moment for as long as you need. Feel the ground beneath you, the history around you, and the stillness within you. The city is grand, the night is long, and you are drifting closer and closer to the shores of sleep. We leave the crowded, breathing brickwork of the Lower East Side and begin a long, steady journey uptown. As we walk, the city textures transform. Narrow, winding paths straighten into the broad, confident grid of the Middle Island. The air loses its coal smoke scent, replaced by crisp, cool morning aroma, and the aristocratic scent of manicured gardens. We are entering the world of the 400, the elite of the Gilded Age, the silent, velvet-lined stillness of Fifth Avenue. In 1890, Fifth Avenue at 3 in the morning is a cathedral of wealth and social order. No tenements here. Instead, there are the chateaus of the New World, massive, block-long mansions of the Vanderbilts, Astors, and Carnegies, built of smooth, pale limestone and cold, hard granite, designed to look as though they have stood for centuries. As you walk, your footsteps sound different. Smoother paving swallows echoes, emphasizing the architecture's sheer scale. The houses stand back, protected by wrought iron fences, with spikes tipped in gold leaf, not leaning toward you. Tall, regal gaslights cast a steady, dignified glow, illuminating the intricate carvings of the facades. You see lions, eagles, and Greek gods staring down from cornices, silent sentinels guarding fortunes within. The silence here is private, guarded, behind thick stone walls and velvet curtains, masters of industry rest. They sleep in mahogany and silk, shielded by luxury. But even here, the night has a life of its own. You pass a mansion where a single high window is lit, perhaps a restless tycoon or a lady's maid. These small flickers of light in vast, dark facades are like the lonely pulses of stars in a cold sky. Sensory details are refined. You notice the smell of fine, well-groomed carriage horses resting in private stables. The scent of hay and expensive leather drifts through side streets, a reminder of the animal world's rhythm. A private night watchman, dressed in gray, blends into shadows at the corner of 51st Street. He carries a silver-tipped cane and quiet authority. He nods, eyes reflecting gaslight, and you move on. Architecture here is a language of power. You pass the Vanderbilt Triple Palace, a massive brownstone structure. Its windows are dark, reflecting the moon like black diamonds. The ironwork of the gates looks like frozen lace. You touch the stone. It's cool, smooth, polished. This city has been tamed, sanded down, and gilded. As you walk, trees in private gardens send a different music into the night. Leaves rustle, polite and restrained. Wind catches a Japanese maple, sounding like silk. No barking dogs, no shouting voices here. The only sound is a distant clop-clop of a lone carriage returning from a late-night ball. The sound grows louder, then softer, a rhythmic disappearing act emphasizing the street's emptiness. When the carriage passes, you see the flicker of its lamps, two swaying suns cutting through the mist. For a moment, a glimpse inside, tufted satin, polished wood, faint perfume, then it's gone, leaving behind only the smell of damp earth and the cooling glow of the gaslights. You stand where mansions meet Central Park. The park, a vast, dark sea to your left, striking contrast. Structured monuments to human ambition on one side, untamed sighing breath of trees on the other. The air from the park is colder, smelling of pine needles, wet moss, and deep, dark soil. Take a slow, deep breath. The air here is thin and crisp. It feels expensive, if air could have a price. It is the air of the upper reaches, where lower city stresses are filtered out by distance and stone. Your body feels light as you walk. No tension, no rush. You are a ghost among millionaires. A traveler in a world that prides itself on exclusivity. Yet tonight, it belongs entirely to you. The moon hangs over the reservoir, a silver coin tossed into a black velvet tray. Light reflects off mansard roofs and copper cupolas, turning the city into a dream of metal and light. In 1890, this is the pinnacle of the world. This is what the struggle of the docks was building toward. This silent, gleaming avenue of stone. As we linger, let your mind settle into the stillness of the architecture. Imagine grand staircases inside, carved from white marble, winding up into darkness. Imagine libraries filled with leather-bound books no one is reading. Grand ballrooms with crystal chandeliers. The city is a mountain, and you have climbed to its peak. The air is still. Shadows are long and graceful. The world's pressure has fallen away, replaced by history's heavy, comforting weight and luxury. You are safe. You are drifting. Mansions guard Gilded Age secrets, and the park whispers its green lullaby. Stay here for a moment, at the corner of 5th and 59th. Feel the coolness of the granite. Watch the gaslight flicker, a tiny, determined heartbeat in the vastness of the night. The journey continues, but the pace is slow. The world is resting, and so are you. We step off the smooth, regal pavement of 5th Avenue and cross the threshold into a different kind of silence. The transition is immediate. As your feet leave the granite and touch the winding gravel paths of Central Park, the city's voice changes. The rhythmic clack of your boots is softened, replaced by the hushed, crunching music of crushed stone and the soft, yielding earth. We are entering the lungs of the city, but in the deep hours of 1890, the park feels less like a public garden and more like a vast, ancient sanctuary, a kingdom of wood and water that has been reclaimed by the night. In 1890, the park is in its prime, a masterpiece of Frederick Law, Olmsted, and Calvert Vaux. It was designed to be an escape from the grid of Manhattan, and at night that escape is absolute. The gas lamps here are fewer, spaced far apart like lonely stars in a green galaxy. Their light is filtered through the dense canopy of elms and oaks, casting dappled, swaying shadows that dance across the grass. The air is noticeably cooler here, several degrees lower than the stone streets we've left behind. It smells of damp moss, pine needles, and the deep, cold water of the lake. You begin to walk along the Mall, the great cathedral-like promenade of American elms, in the daylight. This is the center of social New York, where carriages, parade, and fashion is on display. But now it is a hall of giants. The trees arch over the wide path, their branches interlocking to create a ceiling of silver and shadow. The wind moves through the leaves with a sound like a long, slow, indrawn breath. It is a rhythmic, oceanic sound, a she that seems to command the restless mind to be still. To your left and right, the sheep meadow stretches out like a sea of dark velvet. In 1890, the sheep are a flock of Southdowns that live in the park to keep the grass trimmed. At this hour, they are huddled together in their fold near the 66th Street entrance, a warm, breathing mass of wool and quietude. You can't see them, but you can sense their presence, the peaceful, unhurried energy of creatures that have no concept of gilded or age. As you move deeper into the park, the sounds of the city begin to fade into a memory. The distant clatter of a cable car or the whistle of a tugboat becomes a ghostly, ethereal thing, stripped of its urgency. You reach the Bethesda Terrace, descending the grand sandstone stairs. The stone here is carved with the birds and beasts of the park, and as you run your hand over the cool, damp railing, you feel the texture of the fruit and flowers frozen in the rock. The fountain, the angel of the water, stands motionless in the center of the plaza. The water has been turned low for the night, leaving only a gentle, musical trickle that sounds like bells ringing far underground. The lake lies before you, a mirror of black ink. The moonlight hits the surface, creating a path of shimmering silver that leads toward the Ramble. In 1890, the lake is filled with wooden rowboats, now tied up at the boathouse, their oars shipped and their hulls bumping softly against one another. The sound of wood on Wood Clunk Creek clunk is steady and hypnotic. It is the sound of a cradle rocking on the water. You cross the bow bridge, the elegant cast-iron span that curves over the Narrows. The iron is cold to the touch, and as you stand at the center, you look down at the reflection of the stars in the water. The park around you feels vast, much larger than its 800 acres. Because there are no high-rise lights on the horizon, the sky feels lower, more intimate. You are in a valley of shadows, protected from the world of commerce and ambition. The Ramble, with its winding paths and rocky outcrops, is where the night is darkest. Here, the scent of the earth is strongest. It is the smell of the Manhattan schista, ancient, hard rock that forms the backbone of the island. You pass a small cave, the air within it smelling of wet stone and old leaves. This is the wild New York, the ghost of the island as it was before the Dutch, before the English, before the first brick was ever laid. The park doesn't just provide air, it provides a connection to the prehistoric silence of the land. As you walk, your own breathing becomes deeper, matching the slow, sighing rhythm of the trees. Every few minutes, you hear the hoot of a great horned owl, a hollow, haunting hoo-hoo that echoes off the rocks. It is a lonely sound, but not a sad one. It is the sound of the park's night watchman making his rounds. You might see a firefly, a stray spark from an earlier season, or the glowing eyes of a raccoon watching you from the safety of a hollow log. These are the residents of the 1890 night, and they accept your presence with a quiet indifference. The architecture of the park, the rustic wooden bridges, the stone arches, the small pagodas, all seems to have grown out of the ground rather than being built upon it. You find a wooden bench near the edge of the sheep meadow, its slats weathered and smooth. As you sit, you feel the immense stillness of the midnight hour. The city that never sleeps is, in 1890, very much asleep. The lights of the mansions on Fifth Avenue are now just a distant, golden haze behind the trees. You are in a pocket of time where the 19th century has paused to take a breath. Think of the contrast between the Cathedral of Commerce we visited earlier and this Cathedral of Nature. There, the silence was heavy with the weight of gold and power. Here, the silence is light. It is a living silence. It is the sound of sap moving in the trees, of the earth cooling after the day's sun, of the water settling into the silt. It is a silence that invites you to let go of your own weight, to become as still as the stone angel on the terrace. The park is a transition. It is the bridge between the lower city's toil and the upper city's rest. As we prepare to leave the whispering woods and move toward the great white way which is only just beginning to find its light stay in this green sanctuary for a moment longer. Feel the cool mist rising from the lake. Listen to the dry rustle of the oak leaves as they talk to the wind. You are a part of this landscape now. Your heart rate has slowed to the pace of the dripping fountain. Your mind is as clear as the moonlit reservoir. The city is a world of noise and light, but the park is the truth behind the curtain. It is the steady, quiet pulse of the island, a reminder that beneath all the iron and brick, the earth remains patient and peaceful. Take one more deep, slow breath of the pine-scented air. The gravel path is waiting to lead you out, but the stillness of the woods will stay with you. You are moving closer to the center of your own rest, guided by the stars and the soft, rhythmic sigh of the New York night. We emerge from the dark, breathing sanctuary of Central Park and turn our footsteps back toward the stone-lined avenues. We are moving toward a place where the night is being transformed. Walking toward Broadway and 23rd Street, the glittering heart of New York's social world in 1890. This is the precursor to Times Square, a world of grand hotels, theater illuminations, and the transition from gas to the pale blue-white hum of electric arc lamps. As you walk down Broadway, the street begins to widen into the grand expanse of Madison Square. Here, the night feels expansive and celebratory. Even at this late hour, the air carries a faint, lingering energy. This is where the night owls of the city congregate in 1890. You can smell expensive cigars, violet-scented perfume, and the crisp ozone temps of new electricity beginning to crackle through the air. Dominating the skyline to your left is the original Madison Square Garden, a sprawling, Moorish masterpiece designed by Stanford White. Its yellow brick and terracotta walls glow softly. Its great tower, modeled after the Giralda, reaches high into the dark. At the very top, the bronze statue of Diana, the huntress, catches the light of the stars. She is the pagan queen of the New York night, poised with her bow, watching over a city that is rapidly becoming the most modern place on Earth. The illumination here is unlike anything we have encountered so far. While side streets are still ruled by the warm, flickering yellow of gas, Broadway is experimenting with the arc lamp. These early electric lights sit atop high iron poles, hissing and sputtering as the carbon rods burn. They cast a stark, moon-like radiance that turns the cobblestones into a silver stage. The shadows they create are deep and sharp, far more dramatic than the soft blurs of the gaslight. It is a world caught between two eras, the romantic, organic glow of the past and the cold, mechanical brilliance of the future. You walk past the Fifth Avenue Hotel, a bastion of old-world dignity. Its windows are tall and framed in heavy mahogany. Through the glass, you see the dim, red-carpeted hallways where the powerful once sat in Amen Corner to decide the fate of the city's politics. The hotel is quiet now, but the air around it feels charged with history. A single handsome cab waits at the curb, the horse's head bowed in a gentle doze. The driver, wrapped in a heavy wool cloak, is a silhouette against the pale arc light. The only sound is the occasional rhythmic thump of the horse's hoof against the pavement, a reminder that even in the center of progress, the old ways of moving still prevail. Madison Square itself is a quiet glade of trees and statues. You find a bench near the statue of Admiral Farragut and sit for a moment. The park is manicured, its gravel paths raked into perfect lines. The trees here are not the wild, whispering giants of Central Park, but elegant, well-behaved maples and elms. As the wind moves through them, it carries the sound of the city's transition. To the north, you can hear the faint, melodic clinkling of a horse-drawn streetcar moving up 26th Street. It is a fragile, tinkling sound, like a music box being wound in a distant room. In 1890, this district is the center of the Great White Way, though the term is only just being whispered. This is the theater district. You pass the Lyceum and the Star Theater, their marquees lit not by neon, but by hundreds of tiny, glowing gas jets or early incandescent bulbs. The posters on the walls announce the performances of the night Edwin Booth or Lily Langtry. The posters are peeling slightly at the edges, damp with the midnight mist. The architecture of the theater district is a riot of ornament. Everything is designed to catch the eye, even in the dark. There are gilded balconies, carved masks of comedy and tragedy, and grand entrances with marble columns. You reach out and touch the wall of a playhouse. The stone is etched with 100 years of ambition. This is where the city comes to see itself reflected in the footlights. At night, when the crowds have gone and the carriages have dispersed, the buildings seem to lean back and sigh, their task of entertainment finished for the day. The silence of Madison Square is a sophisticated silence. It isn't the heavy, silent power of Wall Street or the crowded rest of the tenements. It is a pause in a symphony. You feel as though you are standing in the center of a great golden clock, listening to the gears turn. The city is growing upward and outward, but here, around the square, it has found a moment of perfect Gilded Age poise. As you walk further north, the bright lights begin to thin, and the darkness of the residential side streets returns. You pass the brownstone row houses of the upper middle class, the doctors, the lawyers, the merchants, who have moved away from the noise of the lower wards. These houses are identical, a rhythmic repetition of stoops and wrought iron railings. Each one has a small, polished brass nameplate that catches the stray light of the moon. The windows are shuttered, the lace curtains drawn tight. It is a world of private, respectable peace. The smell of the 23rd Street area is distinct. It is the scent of the new department stores, W. and J. Sloan and Lord and Taylor. It is the smell of expensive carpets, new fabrics, and the dry, dusty scent of the great iron-framed buildings. In 1890, shopping is a grand theatrical experience, and even at night, the window displays are lit by low gas flames, showing off the latest Paris fashions to the empty street. You see a silk gown draped over a mannequin, its folds catching the light like a waterfall, a frozen shadow. Take a slow, deep breath, feel the transition in the air. We are moving away from the warmth of the early evening and into the small hours. That time between 3 and 4 in the morning when the city's pulse is at its slowest. The arc lamps hiss overhead, a steady, white noise hum that is strangely comforting. It sounds like the distant roar of the ocean or the static of a radio tuned to a dead frequency. It is the sound of the modern world being born. Your body is heavy now, synchronized with the rhythmic quiet of the square. The Diana on her tower is still watching, her bow aimed at the stars. The horses in the stables are dreaming of clover. The actors have long since removed their grease bent and are asleep in their boarding houses. And you too are a part of this quiet interval. Madison Square is the crossroads of the era. Behind you is the history of the harbor and the toil of the tenements. Ahead of you is the vertical future of the skyscraper and the electric city. But for now, you are in the in-between. You are in the gaslit glow of 1890, where the nights are long, the shadows are deep, and the rhythm of the city is as steady as the ticking of a grandfather clock in a grand hotel lobby. Stay in this silver light for as long as you wish. Watch the way the mist swirls around the arc lamps, creating halos of blue and violet. Listen to the silence of the theater district, a silence filled with the echoes of 1,000 curtain calls. The journey is nearly complete, and the path to the deepest rest is wide and paved with light. We turn our backs on the silver brilliance of Madison Square and the theatrical ghosts of Broadway, steering our journey westward toward the edge of the island. As we move toward the Hudson River, the refined air of the Midtown District begins to coarsen. The scent of violet perfume and expensive tobacco fades. It's replaced by the honest, heavy aromas of the city's working periphery. We are entering the realm of the industrial Shora landscape of coal yards, ironworks, and the rhythmic, tidal pulse of the Hudson. In 1890, this is the city's engine room, and even at rest, it hums with a residual, metallic energy. The streets here are wider to accommodate the great dryage wagons that rumble through during the daylight hours, but now they are vast, echoing corridors of shadow. The cobblestones are larger, more rugged, and often slick with the damp breath of the river. To your left and right, the buildings rise like fortresses of industry. These are not the marble palaces of Fifth Avenue. They are bastions of dark, soot-stained brick, reinforced with massive iron bolts. You pass a foundry, its large wooden doors bolted shut with chains as thick as a man's wrist. The air around it still carries a faint, dry heat, the ghost of the days smelting, and the sharp, sulfuric temps of cooling iron. As you approach the waterfront, the great river reveals itself. The Hudson in 1890 is a powerhouse of commerce, but at 4 in the morning it is a broad, black expanse of moving muscle. The water is deep and fast, swirling around the timber pilings of the piers with a low, gurgling sound, a liquid hush that repeats in a hypnotic cycle. The mist here is thicker than it was at the Battery, rolling in off the water in long, ghostly ribbons that wrap themselves around the masts of the canal boats and the chimneys of the tugs. You find yourself at the Des Brosses Street Ferry Terminal. This is a cathedral of transit, a massive structure of wood and corrugated iron. Inside the terminal, the silence is cavernous. The floor is covered in a layer of fine gray dust, and the air smells of wet hemp, river silt, and the pungent, familiar aroma of horse stables. A few flickering gas jets, high in the rafters, cast a dim greenish light over the rows of empty wooden benches. These benches, worn smooth by the coats of a million commuters, look like rows of silent pews in a temple of the tide. A ferry boat is docked in the slip, waiting for the first morning crossing. It is a grand, double-ended vessel of white-painted wood, looking like a giant swan resting in the dark. You step onto the deck, and the wood beneath your feet feels alive. The ferry isn't truly still. It moves with the river, a slow, rhythmic swaying that shifts your weight almost imperceptibly from left to right. Creak, groan, settle. The sound of the timber straining against the dock lines is a rhythmic, melodic song, the music of the harbor's cradle. Looking out from the deck, you see the industrial shoreline of New Jersey across the water. In 1890, it is a horizon of chimneys and flickering furnace fires. A single train on the Pennsylvania Railroad crawls along the distant bank, its headlight a tiny, searching eye in the dark, and its whistle a lonely two-note call that carries across the water with a haunting musical clarity. It is a sound that speaks of distance, of the vast continent stretching out beyond the island. But here on the ferry, you are anchored in a moment of perfect, floating stillness. You walk to the rail and look down into the water. The moonlight is broken into 1,000 dancing shards by the river's current. There is a profound sense of depth here. Beneath you is the silt of centuries, the hidden wrecks of old sloops, and the cold, dark world of the sturgeon and the shad. The river doesn't care about the Gilded Age. It moves with a prehistoric patience, a reminder that the city is merely a temporary guest upon its banks. Leaving the ferry, you walk north along the West Street bulkhead. This is the world of the Gansevoort Market and the meatpacking district. At this hour, the great refrigerated warehouses are silent, their thick brick walls holding in the cold. You pass a row of empty meat hooks hanging from an iron rail above the sidewalk. In the moonlight, they look like a line of silver notes on a staff of music. The scent here is of sawdust and cold stone, a clean, sharp smell that clears the mind. The industrial shore is a place of giants. You pass the massive coal pocket stowering structures where the fuel of the city is stored. The smell of coal dust is earthy and ancient, like the scent of a deep cave. The mountains of anthracite coal sit in the dark, their faceted surfaces catching the light like piles of black diamonds. There is a beauty in this utility, a quiet dignity in the materials that power the lights and the engines of the New York night. Every few blocks, you come across a night watchman's box, a small octagonal hut where a man sits with a thermos of coffee and a newspaper. The glow of his small stove is the only warmth in the blue-gray landscape. He is the keeper of the silence, a human anchor in the world of machines. As you pass, the rhythmic tick-tock of a large clock inside his hut reaches your ears, a steady, mechanical heartbeat that competes with the pulse of the river. The sounds of the industrial shore are the most meditative of all. It is a symphony of low frequencies, the deep, muffled thrum of a distant steam boiler, the hollow clunk of a buoy in the channel, the long, drawn-out sigh of the wind moving through the latticework of a crane. These sounds don't demand your attention. They provide a foundation for it. They are the brown noise of 1890, a sonic blanket that wraps around your thoughts and stills them. Take a slow, deep breath of the river air. It is heavy and cool, filling your lungs with the vastness of the Hudson. Your body feels the steady, unhurried pace of the tide. In the industrial shore, there is no pretense, no gold leaf, and no social ladder. There is only the wood, the iron, the water, and the work. And now, the work has ceased. The hammers are silent. The furnaces are banked. The city's engine is cooling in the midnight mist. As we move away from the water's edge, back toward the center of the island, carry this sense of weight with you. The industrial shore reminds us that the world is built on solid things and foundations of rock and iron. It gives us permission to be heavy, to settle into the gravity of our own rest. The river will continue to flow while you sleep. The coal will wait in its pockets. The ferries will sway in their slips. You are walking away from the edge now, the mist of the Hudson clinging to your shoulders like a soft, damp shawl. The street lamps of the interior are beginning to appear again, but they seem warmer now, more welcoming. You have seen the boundaries of the city, the places where Manhattan meets the rest of the world, and you have found that even there, in the heart of the machine, there is a deep and abiding peace. The stars are beginning to fade slightly as the deepest part of the night takes hold. This is the hour of the wolf, the hour of the dreamer. The shadows are at their longest, and the silence is at its most profound. You are safe, you are tired, and the rhythm of the Hudson is now the rhythm of your own heart. We move away from the industrial breath of the Hudson, turning our steps toward the quieter, residential side streets of the West Side. Here, nestled behind the grand brownstones, lies a hidden world that defines the very pulse of 1890. We are entering the Mews and the great livery stables, the secret resting places of the city's animal heart. New York does not run on electricity or gasoline. It runs on muscle, bone, and breath. Over 100,000 horses call this island home. At 4 a.m, their presence creates a sanctuary of warmth and peace. As you turn into a narrow Belgian-blocked alleyway, the air undergoes a profound transformation. The sharp, metallic scent of the river and the coal yards vanishes, replaced by a rich, nostalgic bouquet. It is the smell of sweet Timothy hay, of dry, golden straw, and the warm, earthy aroma of living creatures. It is a scent that feels ancient and grounding, reaching back to a time before cities were made of steel. You pass the heavy, sliding wooden doors of a large livery stable. They are painted a deep hunter green. Through the cracks in the timber, A faint golden light spills out onto the stones, and with it comes the symphony of the stables. It is a music of low frequencies, the rhythmic, hollow thump of a hoof shifting in the straw, the long, vibrating snort of a horse clearing its lungs, and the steady, dry sound of 100 jaws slowly grinding the last of the evening's grain. Imagine yourself stepping inside. The ceiling is high, lost in a gloom of heavy timber beams and iron pulleys. The air is warm, heated by the collective bodies of 40 or 50 horses. This is a living heat, a gentle radiance that settles on your skin and invites your muscles to relax. There is no tension here. The horses are in their stalls, massive, dignified animals with coats of bay, chestnut, and charcoal. Their eyes, large and dark, reflect the dim light like polished obsidian. They do not fear the night. You walk slowly down the center aisle. To your left is a grand, handsome cab horse, its harness hanging on a peg nearby. The brass buckles catch the light, glowing like small, fallen suns. To your right are the heavy-boned Percherons and Clevelands, the draft giants, who spend their days pulling the massive beer wagons of the breweries or the stone-laden carts for new skyscrapers. In the daylight, they are the embodiment of power and toil. But now, in the stillness of 1890, they are soft. Their ears flicker at the sound of your passage, a gentle, feathered movement in the dark. The silence of the stable is a layered thing. Beneath the sounds of the animals, there is the rustle of the hay, a dry, shushing sound that mimics the wind in the trees of Central Park. There is the slow drip-drip of a water trough, a liquid metronome marking the slow march toward dawn. And there is the smell of the tack room, the deep, intoxicating scent of oiled leather, saddle soap, and neatsfoot oil. It is a scent of care and maintenance, of a world where things are mended and polished by hand. You reach out and touch a leather rein. It is cool and supple, holding the memory of the hands that have guided it. This hidden world of the stables is the ballast of Manhattan. While politicians argue and bankers calculate, the horses simply breathe. They provide a steady, unhurried rhythm that grounds the frantic energy of the island. As you stand in the center of the stable, let your own breathing synchronize with theirs. A long, slow inhale, a soft, vibrating exhale. Feel the weight of the day falling away, replaced by the heavy, honest rest of the laborer. Leaving the stable, you find yourself in a mews, a picturesque row of 2-story buildings, where the wealthy keep their private carriages and where the coachmen live with their families above. These buildings are architectural jewels with arched windows and decorative brickwork that looks like embroidery. The windows on the second floors are dark, but here and there, a small geranium sits in a window box. You walk past a blacksmith's shop, the forge now cold and gray. The scent of charred hoof and scorched iron still lingers in the doorway. A pile of discarded iron shoes lies in the corner, looking like a heap of rusted crescents. Each one represents thousands of miles traveled over the Belgian blocks, a testament to the sheer scale of horsepower. The cobblestones in the mews are polished by years of hooves, and they catch the moonlight. You find a mounting block, a short set of stone steps used for entering a carriage, and sit for a moment. From this vantage point, the city feels small and manageable. You are tucked away in a pocket of history. The only sound is the distant, mournful whistle of a steamship on the river, and the closer, more comforting rustle of the horses behind the green doors. In 1890, The horse is a bridge between the human and the mechanical. They have the strength of engines, but the souls of companions. Think of the thousands of miles of leather reins that connect the hands of New Yorkers to the strength of these animals. It is a city built on a partnership of breath. The horses are the silent witnesses to every romance in a hansom cab, every tragedy in an ambulance, and every ton of coal delivered to a cold tenement. Take a deep, slow breath of the hay-scented air. It is the cleanest air in the city, filtered by the straw and the warmth of the stalls. Your body feels a profound sense of safety here. The animals are asleep, their great hearts beating in a slow, steady cadence that acts as a lullaby. The stars above the mews are framed by the jagged silhouettes of chimneys and haylofts. They seem to hang lower here, watching over the sleeping giants in the stalls. There is no rush to leave this place. The world outside can wait. The great white way can flicker and hiss. But here, the only light is the soft, golden glow of the hay, and the occasional spark of a star. As we move toward the final chapters of our journey, hold this animal peace within you. Let the warmth of the stable stay in your limbs. Let the rhythmic grinding of the grain and the soft snorts of the horses settle your mind. You are drifting now, moving toward the deepest part of the night, guided by the ancient, steady pulse of the city's living heart. The shadows in the mews are long and soft, reaching out to embrace you. The green doors are closed. The harnesses are silent. The city of 1890 is resting its muscles, preparing for the day to come. But for now, there is only the hay, the stone, and the breath. You are safe, you are tired, and the rhythm of the stables is the rhythm of your sleep. As we leave the warm, hay-scented sanctuary of the stables, we step back into the cool, blue-gray heart of the Manhattan night. We are entering the hour of the watch, that stillness between 4 and 5 in the morning when the piece's pulse is at its lowest. The only people awake are those who stand guard over the sleeping millions in 1890. The night watch is a fragile network of human vigilance. There are no electronic sensors, no security cameras, and no sirens. There is only the steady beat of a patrolman's boots, the flicker of a lamplighter's pole, and the silent, watchful eyes of the city's guardians. Imagine the scene at a typical street corner. The gaslight has burned low, its hiss a rhythmic, mechanical whisper in the damp air. Emerging from the fog is a member of the finest, a New York City police officer. In 1890, his uniform is a heavy, navy blue frock coat with brass buttons that catch the stray light of the moon. He wears a high, domed custodian helmet and carries a long, polished, locust-wood truncheon. He doesn't move with a sense of urgency. He moves with a slow, deliberate cadence, a pace meant for a 12-hour shift. As he walks, he performs a ritual of the night. At every third or fourth door, he stops. He reaches out and tests the heavy iron latch of a warehouse or the brass handle of a shop. The sound a sharp clack-clack, followed by the rattle of a chanacos down the empty street, a signal that the law is awake. He knows the voice of every door on his beat. He knows which ones groan with humidity and which ones click with finality. This is a city of tactile security, where safety is felt in the palm of a hand and heard in the silence of a well-locked bolt. The patrolman is not the only one awake. You look down the long perspective of the avenue and see a lone figure carrying a long wooden pole. This is the lamplighter. In 1890, his work is coming to an end. As the sky begins to shift from indigo to a pale, bruised violet, he moves from post to post with the grace of a ghost. He reaches up with his pole, turns the small brass key, and the golden flame vanishes with a soft puff. One by one, the stars of the street are extinguished, leaving profound darkness before the first light of dawn. The first light of dawn begins to bleed over the East River. The silence of the night watch is a focused silence. It is the silence of an ear pressed against the world. You find yourself standing near a police telegraph box, a small, ornate iron pillar on the sidewalk. Inside, a telegraph key clicks rhythmically, sending a message in Morse code back to the precinct house. Click, click, pause, click. It is the heartbeat of the city's nervous system, a thread of copper and lightning connecting the lonely patrolman to the heart of the machine. The sound is tiny, almost lost in the vastness of the night, but it is the sound of order in a world of chaos. As you walk alongside the shadow of the watch, you notice the night owls of a different sort. In 1890, the city's basements are often more alive than its rooftops. Through the iron gratings in the sidewalk, you see a warm orange glow and hear the rhythmic, metallic thudshes of a printing press. This is the world of the night shift. Inside, men in ink-stained aprons are moving with a synchronized, hypnotic grace, feeding sheets of paper into the great iron maws of the presses. The smell of hot lead, fresh ink, and machine oil rises through the grates, a sharp, industrious scent that reminds you that even while the city sleeps, its history is being written in real time. The architecture of the night watch is defined by its thresholds. You pass the heavy, barred windows of a precinct house. Inside, a sergeant sits behind a high mahogany desk, a green-shaded lamp casting a pool of light over a massive, leather-bound ledger. The scratching of his quill pen is the only sound in the room. He is recording the small dramas of the night: a broken window on Mulberry Street, a stray horse found near the docks, a fire started by a tipped kerosene lamp in a tenement. These ledgers are the secret diaries of the city, the repositories of its grief and its small victories. You continue your walk toward a watchman's shanty at the edge of a construction site for a new skyscraper, a building that might reach the staggering height of 10 stories. The watchman sits on a wooden stool, a small coal fire burning in a rusted iron brazier. The light of the coals is a deep, pulsating red, reflecting off his weathered face and the brass buttons of his coat. The air here smells of wood smoke and roasting coffee. He nods to you, his eyes tired but alert. He is the guardian of the future, watching over the piles of brick and the skeletons of steel that will one day redefine the skyline. Think of the patience of the night watch. In 1890, time moves differently. There is no digital countdown, only the movement of the stars and the slow burning of a candle. The watchman is a practitioner of stillness. He learns to see in the dark, to distinguish between the rustle of a rat in the garbage and the footfall of a prowler. His world is a world of shadows, but he is the one who gives those shadows boundaries. The sounds of this chapter are the smallest we have encountered. The whir of a distant telegraph, the soft huff of the patrolman's breath in the cold air, the tinkle of a falling ember from the watchman's fire. And then there is the whistle. Far off, perhaps 10 blocks away, a patrolman blows a short, sharp note on his brass whistle. It is a piercing sound that cuts through the fog like a blade. A moment later, an answering whistle echoes from a different direction. It is the all is well of the night, a human command response that stitches the city back together. As we linger in this vigil, let your own mind become a watchman. You are not searching for danger, you are simply observing the stillness. Feel the coolness of the air on your face and the solid, unyielding weight of the cobblestones beneath your feet. Your body is a part of the city's architecture, now as silent as a gargoyle, as steady as a lamppost. Take a deep, slow breath. The night is at its most fragile. The shadows are beginning to stretch, preparing to dissolve as the sun approaches the horizon. But for now, the watch holds. The doors are locked. The fires are banked. The city is safe. You are a passenger in this quiet interval, protected by the men who stand in the dark so that the world can dream. The stars above the precinct house are fading into a soft, pearlescent gray. The Great Bear is leaning toward the Hudson. The cycle of the night is nearly complete. In this moment, there is no past and no future, only the rhythmic breathing of the city and the steady, comforting presence of the watch. Stay here for as long as you need. Watch the way the mist curls around the policeman's boots. Listen to the scratching of the sergeant's pen. Feel the deep, abiding peace that comes from knowing that even in the heart of the great, dark Manhattan, someone is awake, someone is watching, and someone is making sure that the dawn arrives on time. You are safe, you are tired, and the rhythm of the watch is the rhythm of your own restful heart. We leave the blue-black shadows of the night watch behind and turn our faces toward the east. The air is changing. That deep, heavy stillness of the hour of the wolf is beginning to thin, replaced by a microscopic vibration in the atmosphere. We are walking toward the East River, toward the Brooklyn Bridge and the Fulton Fish Market, to witness the first fragile breath of dawn in 1890. This is the moment when the city is neither asleep nor awaken, is in the gray space. A transition of light and sound that feels like the world is being created anew, brick by brick. As you walk down toward the shoreline, the sky over the distant hills of Brooklyn begins to shift. It is no longer indigo. It is a pale, translucent violet, the color of a bruised plum. Then, slowly, a sliver of pearlescent gray begins to bleed along the horizon. This is not the bright, aggressive sun of the modern world. This is a Victorian dawn, soft, filtered through the salt mist of the harbor and the lingering coal smoke of a million banked fires. The gaslights on the street corners look different now. Their golden glow, once so dominant, now looks frail and sickly against the growing light of the sky. The sounds of this hour are the pioneers of the day. They are isolated, sharp, and musical. You hear it first from a side street, the rhythmic, hollow clinkling of glass against glass. It is the milkman. His wagon is a small wooden affair, painted a stark white, that catches the pre-dawn light. The horse moves with a bored, practiced gait, its hooves making a soft thud squish on the damp stones. The milkman himself is a shadow in a heavy coat, moving from stoop to stoop, with a wire crate of glass bottles. He doesn't speak, he doesn't whistle. He is a ghost of the morning, leaving behind the sustenance of the new day before the city even knows it has begun. Then comes the scent of the early bakers. As you pass a basement bakery near Cherry Street, a cloud of warm, intoxicating air rises through the wooden sidewalk slats. It is the smell of yeast, of toasted flour, and of wood-fired ovens. It is a scent that carries the weight of comfort and tradition. You can hear the muffled thump-thump of dough being kneaded on heavy flour-dusted tables. A rhythmic, organic percussion that feels like the city's heart beginning to beat again. In 1890, the bread is made by hand, and the effort of the night's labor is written in the golden crusts of the loaves cooling on the racks. You reach the edge of the river at the Fulton Fish Market. Here, the dawn is already in full swing, but it is a hushed, industrious version of it. The great iron-roofed sheds are lit by flickering torches and a few hissing arc lamps. The air is sharp with the smell of the deep ocean salt, seaweed, and the cold, metallic scent of fresh scales. You see the fishing smacks and schooners glinting in the gray light, their masts swaying slowly as they unload the night's catch. The men move in silence, their breath visible in the cold air, like small, ephemeral clouds. They speak in low murmurs, their voices swallowed by the vast open space of the river. Looking up, the Brooklyn Bridge is a masterpiece of geometry against the changing sky. Its granite towers are no longer black silhouettes. They are turning a soft, warm rose as the first rays of the sun hit their summits. The web of steel cables looks like a giant harp, waiting for the wind to play it. On the pedestrian walkway, a few early commuters, laborers with tin lunch pails and clerks in frayed overcoats, are moving toward Manhattan. Their footsteps are a distant, rhythmic shuffling sound, a human tide beginning to flow back into the island. The river itself is a sheet of hammered silver. The mist is lifting in patches, revealing the ghost ships of the harbor, the tugs, the barges, and the grand steamers. Resting in their slips like sleeping leviathans, a lone seagull let out a sharp, lonely cry, a sound that seems to crack the silence of the night. It is the first wild voice of the morning, a signal that the sanctuary of the dark is coming to an end. You find a wooden piling to lean against, the timber cold and rough with salt-encrusted barnacles. As you watch the light grow, think of the millions of people behind you, still tucked in their beds. In the tenements of the Lower East Side, the first stirrings of life are beginning: the creak of a floorboard, the splash of water in a basin, the striking of a match for a morning pipe. In the mansions of Fifth Avenue, the servants are moving through the kitchens, their footsteps muffled by thick carpets. The city is a giant machine, and the gears are just beginning to catch. But here, at the river's edge, there is still a moment of perfect peace. The first breath of dawn is a clean breath. The dust of the day hasn't been kicked up yet. The shouting of the newsboys hasn't begun. The roar of the elevated train is still a distant, infrequent clatter. For these few minutes, New York is a village again. It is a collection of souls sharing a single, quiet transition from the world of dreams to the world of work. Take a slow, deep breath of this dawn air. It is bracing, filled with the energy of the coming day, but still holding on to the coolness of the night. Feel the way your body responds to the light, the subtle shift from the heavy relaxation of the shadows to a soft, quiet awareness. You aren't rushing into the morning. You are simply allowing it to arrive. The architecture of the waterfront, the wooden piers, the brick warehouses, the iron bridges being painted by the sun. The shadows are receding, retreating into the alleyways and the basements where they will wait for the next sunset. The gaslights have finally been extinguished, their job done. The city of 1890 is revealing its true face, a face of grit and grandeur, of stone and spirit. Stay here for a moment longer. Watch the way the light catches the ripples in the wake of a passing tugboat. Listen to the rhythmic slap-slap of the water against the pilings. This is the blue hour, the time of poets and dreamers. It is a time of hope, a time when the mistakes of yesterday are washed away by the tide, and the possibilities of tomorrow are as vast as the Atlantic. You are a witness to the birth of a day in the Gilded Age. The milk is on the stoop, the bread is in the oven, the watchman is heading home, and you, too, are nearing the end of your journey through the shadows. The rhythm of the dawn is a steady, rising crescendo, a promise of light and life. But for now, it is still quiet. It is still yours. We stand now at the final threshold of our journey. The pale, bruised violet of the pre-dawn sky has surrendered to a glorious, liquid gold. The sun is rising over the Atlantic, its light spilling across the East River and igniting the windows of the Manhattan skyline like 1,000 small fires. In the year 1890, the sunrise is not just a change in light. It is a change in the very soul of the city. The heavy, velvet silence of the night is being replaced by a rhythmic, industrious hum. But as the world begins to stir, we are not moving toward the day. We are moving toward the deepest part of our own rest, carrying the peace of the gaslit streets with us into the final sanctuary of sleep. As you turn away from the river and walk back toward the center of the island, the orchestra of the morning begins its first movement. It is a symphony of metal and stone. You hear the distant, melodic clank-clang of a cable car bell on Broadway, a bright, cheerful sound that signals the return of the commuters. You hear the rhythmic, heavy rumble of the first drayage wagons as they leave the warehouses, their iron-rimmed wheels grinding against the Belgian blocks with a sound like rolling thunder. This is the city's waking breath, a powerful, confident exhale of energy and ambition. But notice the pace of 1890. Even as it awakens, it is not the frantic, jagged rush of the modern era. There is a weight to the movement, a dignity to the speed. The horses move with a steady, unhurried strength. The pedestrians walk with a purpose that is measured by the ticking of pocket watches, not the flickering of seconds on a screen. You pass a sweep at a street corner, his broom making a rhythmic shush as he clears the dust of the night from the gutter. The sound is steady and hypnotic, a domestic music that frames the morning. As the light climbs higher, the architecture of the city takes on a new dimension. The dark, brooding canyons of Wall Street are now filled with a soft, reflected radiance. The granite of the banks looks warm, almost like living skin. You reach Trinity Church just as the great bronze bell begins to toll the hour of 6. Bong, bong, bong. The sound rolls down the length of Broadway, deep and resonant. It is a sound that has marked the mornings of New York for generations. It is a grounding sound, a reminder that the city is built on foundations that do not shift with the wind. You walk past a newsstand where the first bundles of the New York Herald and the Sun have just been dropped. The paper is still warm from the press, and the scent of fresh ink is sharp and bracing in the cool morning air. A newsie, having just woken from his sleep on the grates, is shaking out his cap and preparing his first extra of the day. His voice is young and clear, a lonely call that marks the end of the night watch. But his shouting feels far away to you, a distant echo from a world you are now leaving behind. The textures of the city are at their most vibrant in this early light. You notice the way the dew clings to the iron railings of the brownstones, looking like strings of tiny diamonds. You see the way the shadows of the telegraph wires create a complex, moving map on the brick walls. Everything is sharp, clear, and perfectly defined. The mist has retreated to the harbor, leaving the air crystalline and still. As you reach your final destination, perhaps a quiet room in a grand hotel or a peaceful chamber in a brownstone row, you feel the immense weight of the journey you have taken. You have walked through the salt-misted docks, the flickering taverns of the Bowery, the silent canyons of finance, and the whispering woods of the park. You have heard the breathing of the horses and the rhythmic click of the night watchman's latch. The city of 1890 has revealed its secrets to you, and in doing so, it has prepared you for a rest that is as deep and enduring as the stone foundations of the island. Inside your room, the transition is complete. The heavy velvet curtains are drawn, but a single sliver of golden morning light manages to peek through the gap, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The room is quiet, shielded from the growing hum of the street by thick brick and plaster. The air is cool and still, scented with a faint, nostalgic hint of lavender and old paper. You move toward the bed, the wooden floorboards creaking softly beneath your feet, a final, familiar greeting from the house. As you settle into the mattress, feel the profound heaviness of your limbs. It is the same weight we felt in the great iron vaults of Wall Street and in the sturdy oak timber of the ferries. Your body is a part of the history of this city now. Your breathing is slow and rhythmic, matching the steady, rising tide of the harbor. The sounds of the morning, the distant bells, the clip-clop of the horses, the murmur of the awakening streets are no longer interruptions. They are a lullaby. They are the background noise of a world that is safe, orderly, and well-watched. Think one last time of the gaslights being extinguished. Their work is done. The sun is up, and the shadows have returned to their resting places. The Iron Kingdom of Manhattan is wide awake, but you are drifting away. You are floating on the dark, cool waters of the Hudson, moving toward a horizon where there is no toil, no noise, and no time. The year 1890 is a dream you have walked through, and now it is a dream you are entering for good. The stars you saw over Central Park are still there, hidden by the blue of the day, but they are waiting for you. The horses in the stables are now out on the streets, doing their work, but their warmth stays with you. The night watchmen have gone home to sleep, and you are joining them. The city is grand, the day is beginning, but for you, the journey is over. Take a final, deep, and slow breath. Feel the air move through you like a gentle breeze through the elms of the mall. Let your eyes close. The gold of the morning fades into a soft, comforting gray, then into a deep, velvet black. The rhythm of old New York is the rhythm of your heart. The shadows are your friends. The stone is your pillow. Good night, traveler. The city of 1890 is holding its breath for you. Sleep deeply, sleep well, and when you wake, the gaslight will be waiting to guide you home again.